Good afternoon to you. Mark Sutton with HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion. It is Wednesday, August the 12th, 2020. Today won't be too lengthy. We have a few items to discuss. Boy, the Eastern Pacific is really busy right now, and it's going to stay that way for the next several days. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at Tropical Depression 11 and the future of that system, as well as a glance ahead at the Madden-Julian Oscillation, that fancy term for upward motion, I guess, one way to look at it anyway. And then a couple of sneak previews here for some things coming up later this week in our world of our new documentary series. First of all, look at that. I mean, my goodness. I thought it was going to be the Atlantic that would look like this in August, but apparently the Pacific's trying to make up for some lost time here. Pretty much every available zone of real estate out here is taken up by either a yellow, an orange, or a red area. And then we have the tropical storm, former Hurricane Alita here. The good news is, so far, except for this system right here, none of these are going to pose any risk for substantial impacts to Mexico. This system might, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. Even this one over here, as it heads out towards Hawaii, it's not going to have much impact there, not too much of a consequence, so no worries about that. In the Atlantic, of course, we have Tropical Depression 11, and this really, I still think it's going to become a tropical storm, and that'll give us 10 named storms before August 15th, and I think that's a big deal, especially since several of them were from deep tropical waves. We know that we've had a few that developed off of this area, these sort of mid-latitude systems, and we had that Central American gyre early on in the season that gave us Cristobal that came up here into Mississippi. But a good chunk of these have been from these very strong easterly waves that come off of Africa, and that's a big sign for what's coming ahead, especially September into October. I think there'll be about a 45-day period, and that's a long time, okay? 45-day period where we have a tremendous amount of hurricane activity, probably lasting on into even November. But we'll deal with that as it comes. Really unique satellite perspective here. Again, the wonders of Levi Cowan and tropicaltidbits.com there. Nice visible loop of the Western Hemisphere, the dying tropical system over here, Alita, and it's just starving. It's just literally running into colder water, and so the thermodynamic processes are halting. It's just running out of fuel, just like if you or me quit eating and drinking, we would eventually wither away and die. And that's what's happening with this. It's moving over cooler water, the latent heat's not there, and it's just withering away. But in the meantime, all kinds of energy over here. We took a look at that at the beginning. This one close to Mexico already, bringing some heavier rain, and as it organizes, maybe some of the bands could bring some heavy rain. And as we talk about, please do not discount heavy rain. Oh, it's just rain. People getting all upset over rain. All right, well, in the mid-Atlantic today, in fact, I forgot to pull this graphic up I'm going to show you. There is a moderate risk for flooding, and I'll just show you real quick. It's right up through this area. And Ellicott City, okay, the flooding that's happened there, you remember some of that. If you haven't seen it, Google it. Houston floods, just a few years ago, 4 years ago now, I saw Rob Perillo out of KATC in the Acadiana region there in Louisiana talking about that 4 years ago we had that little tropical, semi-tropical, whatever. Well, it was a tropical low. It just never had a name. And it dumped all that rain, Baton Rouge over to Lafayette and many areas in between, flooding out hundreds and hundreds of homes. And so, yes, rainfall is a big deal, and I'm always going to emphasize that. And this could be a problem for parts of Mexico here, so just don't discount that. That's all I'm asking, okay? Just look at the big picture. All right, so in the Atlantic, you can see a tropical wave moving through The islands here, you can see the wave shape right there, the leading edge of it on the northwest side. Here's TD11, still some dry air in here, sinking air, warmer air in the mid-levels, all that kind of stuff. The lid hasn't come off yet. The lid is slowly peeling off over here, and it's going to advance in this direction over time. That Madden-Julian oscillation is a slow feature, a larger weather feature. It's not even a weather feature, it's more of a phenomenon. Really hard to explain to people. I thoroughly don't explain it, all the way down to its core. I don't understand it, I don't explain it either, because I don't understand it thoroughly. It's what I meant to say. But it does lead to a more favorable upward motion pattern. But you can get development even without it, because we're not in an enhanced MJO, and there you go, we have TD11. This will be worth watching as it tries to come together, but it should move offshore. And as I'll show you on the GFS, this impulse of energy might actually end up being a hurricane out here in the subtropical Atlantic. Go figure. Kind of adding to the ACE score and all that, and would be of interest to shipping lanes, and that's about it. All right, so looking at the vorticity signature of all of our players, here we have TD11, nice and round, but not a lot of deep convection, still that dry air around, etc. There's the impulse that I'll show you on the GFS that's going to move out into this part of the Atlantic and try to develop, I do believe, into a formidable tropical system over the warm Gulf Stream. And then here's dying Elita. Here's all that other energy trying to come together in the Pacific that'll lead to more and more name storms out that way. All right, so just a reminder of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So the early part of the season, things tend to be pretty flat. Here we are in the very first part of August, and this is that roller coaster ramp going up. Okay, we're going up, and it's really going to start quickly after about August 20th here. Okay, that's when we see this really start to take off. After August 20th, bam. Climatologically speaking, we still have about another 8 days or so until you truly start the clock. Okay, so August 20th and beyond is this big time frame here when a bulk of the activity takes place, and then it starts to drop off after about mid-September. Then we have a secondary peak in here in October, and then a tertiary or third peak there in the very early part of November. These are all easily what we call marked events. They're demarcated, whatever you call it. They're easy to see, these peaks, going back many, many years to the 1850s of tropical cyclone records. So that being said, on top of this natural peak that we're heading up into now, we are getting ready to add to that a favorable Madden-Julian oscillation event. Okay, and so here's where the phase diagram shows that it's been recently, according to the GFS. And when we had this back several weeks ago, we had activity in the Atlantic, including both of our hurricanes, for the most part, if I'm not mistaken. Let me read that. Yes, right. So the end, and in fact, Isaias became a hurricane over here as it left phase 3 into phase 4, the Madden-Julian oscillation. But a bulk of our activity, we certainly had Hannah. Phases 2 and 3 generally are the phases when the MJO gets in there, it tends to be very favorable in the Atlantic. Over here, phase 8 into 1, generally the Eastern Pacific, and as this kind of swings around, it enhances that upward motion, divergence in the atmosphere over the Atlantic basin. And this is the GFS, the ensemble forecast system, and the green is basically your average, right? And then all the yellow spaghetti lines, angel hair pasta, if you want to call it that, are your ensemble members, and then the grayish outline here is kind of your envelope, outlining the envelope. It's kind of like a cone, right? So there you go. And so then you contrast this with the Euro, which is less amplified out into where the GFS was, more bending it over right into phases 2 and 3 eventually is what you can infer from here. And so the bottom line is you're going to take these, the general idea of a favorable Madden-Julian oscillation, superimpose it on top of the natural ramping up of activity, and it's going to be very busy after late August and into mid-October and beyond, probably. Off and on, you'll see, it's coming. So look, here's an example, and just to show you, too, what's happening for our folks watching in Mexico, the Madden-Julian oscillation currently firmly entrenched over here, and there's Elita, and here's our other system. There's more going to develop through here. So let's just put this into motion. I'll just press play and let it do its thing. Over the next several days, 1, 2, you see Elita die, then 1, 2, there's a third system down there that gets closer to Mexico than we've seen recently, maybe even suggesting a landfall. And let's just go back. That's pretty far out into time. So about 6 days out, you folks here on the Pacific coast of Mexico want to be watching this closely. This third system might get close enough to cause some problems for Mexico. And we'll need to watch, too, to see if it comes up and is able to get up into the Gulf of California, or does it come up and bend out, this way as high pressure stays in control up here. Be kind of interesting to see, will there be some impacts, maybe drawing moisture up towards, and this is way out into time here, 10 days. Will it draw moisture up into the southwest United States and northwest Mexico? But yeah, you folks in mainland Mexico there, like there's an island, you know what I'm saying. The Pacific side of Mexico, definitely keep an eye on this as it tracks generally your way. In the Atlantic, a different part of the atmosphere we're showing 850 millibar vorticity. There's TD11, large area of high pressure sprawling over the Atlantic, but this little feature here is going to put a dent in that and actually break off a piece, if you will. So let's just go through this frame by frame. Our depression moving through, off and on, showing signs in the vorticity field there that it strengthens. So I think it'll become a tropical storm. I still do, Josephine. And now we're at 72 hours. So look what happens. This energy off the Carolinas now gets strung out into the North Atlantic here, but it's right along the Gulf Stream where water temperatures are 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And eventually, by 96 hours and beyond, and maybe the model's just overdoing it, but it pinches off and forms a well-defined cyclone here, subtropical at first. It's kind of spread out. See the rings here, these little height lines? Well, they're not as tightly packed together. Like this hurricane down here in the model, they're so packed together that it looks like a dark circle, okay? So this is generally subtropical at first, but then, as it stays out there a week out and beyond, it mills around and, the model tries to make it into a hurricane. That's what I'm saying. But this is way out in time, beyond 10 days. You see the general pattern of it there, kind of neat. It comes off the Carolinas, piece of energy, and then what happens to the depression, TD11, there it is right there. Keep your eyes on it. And we go out, and you see it just generally dies away. There's not much ridging on the west side because this erodes it away. Sometimes these can come in and get trapped, move back west, kind of like Andrew did in 1992. And Gene in 2004 came up, got trapped, came back. But this is not that. You have a similar situation, but rarely do you have an exact repeat. You run the tropics card enough, right? You play that card enough over the millennia, and sure, you can have the exact same pattern come back again. I'm confident of that over the thousands and millions of years. Why not? But no, I don't see that happening anytime soon with this system. And really, as you notice, the deep tropics down here, all the way through the Caribbean, nothing comes together. We just go back to the beginning of the loop here. Outside of TD11, energy comes across, but it's still mostly focused in the Pacific. All right, so coming up Friday, the next chapter, or episode as it were, of the Hurricane Highway, chapter or episode 2. Sorry, I keep calling it chapter. This one is all about what we do in the off season. It's called Next Play, and it's fairly short. I think 20 minutes or something like that. And we pick up right at the end of the 2018 season, and I talk about that and what we accomplished. I go to the National Hurricane Center in December of 2018. And remember, this documentary series, The Hurricane Highway, replaces the Tracking the Hurricanes films that themselves looked back at the prior hurricane season. The last one was Tracking the Hurricanes 2018, which this footage is from here. So we end 2018, get into 2019. There's some dramatic stuff in there that you'll see. I'm not going to spoil it for you. And that's what it's all about. And then we go into what do we do in the off season. You know, I go and study winter storms. I use winter storms to test equipment. And I cover winter storms more and more. Well, we only had one of significance in the 2018-2019 winter season, and that was one here in the Piedmont of the Carolinas, in North Carolina, actually. So I cover that, and that was really it. You remember there were no big nor'easters in 2019 along the Northeast or the East Coast. No major blockbusters to go after. So that's what we cover here in this episode that gets released to the public on Friday. It's already on Patreon, all 5 episodes. The cat down there trying to stop it. No, kitty. They're already on Patreon, all 5 episodes that have been completed. I have 3 more in the works. And these will be on YouTube, publicly available, no commercials, no Google ads, no monetization, because it is supported by our crowdfunding folks. And some of them even have their name in the credits. And you can too. Click on the link in the description of the video and you can learn how to become a part of that. And that's what's so remarkable about this series, is that it's supported by you, like PBS. Supported by viewers like you. So that drops this Friday. That'll be ready. It'll also be on Amazon Prime Video at the same time. Trying to coordinate when these both get released. Amazon has a different way that they put their stuff out. YouTube, all I got to do is switch it from unlisted to public, and everybody gets notified. Had a social media suggestion, somebody that saw the first episode, that I make some t-shirts and some stickers. And I think of stickers like my little kids, that they get when they go to the doctor. But I was thinking, actually, that's a good idea, like a Hurricane Highway sticker, a tour sticker, like if you went and saw a band. Remember when we used to see concerts? I do. And you would get a tour shirt. Well, I talked about this a little last year. This is our official Hurricane Highway t-shirt. And it looks like what you would get if you went and saw, whoever. I don't even know what a popular band is these days. It has the logo of the HurricaneTrack on the front, of course, right there. But on the back, it's our 20-year anniversary last year of the Hurricane Highway. And it has all the storms and hurricanes we've ever been to. They're all on there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a campaign through custom ink. So I think I can make it last for like 2 weeks or something. And you can order through that campaign. And then once all the orders are in, custom ink will ship them and whatever. So I'm going to put that together and promote it. And they also do other swag, I guess you call it, or merch. That's the term that the YouTubers use. Get your merch here. So yeah, I'll design like a cool sticker, kind of like a poster sticker, similar to what we have here. I'll work on that in Photoshop and add that to the pile as well. Great idea. I'm kind of humble in all that. I don't try to promote fundraising probably as much as I should, because funds are what make all this work. And so when people ask for it, I will respond. And so I'll have that ready hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then certainly Friday, when episode 2, Next Play, that's the title of it. You'll see why it's called that. All right, so there you go. That's a look at the tropics and some other miscellaneous stuff. I can't say tidbits because Levi has that. and rightfully so. Some miscellaneous stuff. All right, have a good rest of your Wednesday. As always, I appreciate you tuning in and giving me some time out of your day. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.